What's up, guys? It's John Dominique, the Soul Proponent. Today I want to talk a little bit about making peace. The path of the soul requires that we become settled, we become quiet, we become still. And it challenges our usual ideas, our usual ways of living, our usual operations, because the usual way of the identity of ego personality is to always be thinking, to always have some type of activity. The mind is always spinning in circles in an endless cycle. It's always churning, and we have to challenge this activity. We have to make peace with it. First of all, we need to see that our mind is always thinking. It's always trying to accomplish something. It's always trying to do something. Once we see that, we have to allow ourselves to continue to see that on a regular basis as a practice, as an everyday practice. And we develop the part of us that's watching the activity, that's watching the scene, that's watching the movement that's happening in our minds all the time, our inner busyness. So we have to make peace with this by first seeing it and understanding it, watching it consistently until we become one with the watching. That stillness that we develop, that quietness, that restfulness, that tranquility will develop in time until it overtakes the mind's proclivity and propensity to get caught up in activity. And that's kind of like the beginning awakenings. Now, what's going to happen is there's going to be an emptiness, a nothingness, like a blackness. And that blackness is like it's a peaceful, restful haven for us, or a sense of relief, something where we can come to let go of our burdens that we're carrying, to let go of our worries and our concerns about surviving and living and achieving our accomplishments or achieving our hopes and our dreams and our desires. So that's the process of making peace. The process of making peace is partly an abandoning of the usual support that we depend on from the ego identity, and the ego identity's, like I said, this thinking process. So we slowly, it's not something that you want to just do all of a sudden. You have to kind of develop this skill slowly, and to allow it to grow and to progress, and to allow this spiritual awakening to unfold in its own way. You can't control it. And that's one other thing we need to be aware of. When we make peace, we have to abandon our need to control things. And that's a very difficult, scary place to be. Like, it's almost like we're sweeping the rug out from under ourselves. This identity of who we take ourselves to be is very important to us. We don't realize how attached we are, how fixated and obsessed we are with needing to hang on to this identity until we try to let go. We won't see how trapped we are. We won't see how imprisoned we are in this belief of who we take ourselves to be, in this identity, until we try to free ourselves from it, liberate ourselves from it. So we have to make peace with this identity and its attachments and its fixations. It's very difficult to do because there's a sense of hatred towards it. And what happens is we see how difficult the situation is, and we end up judging ourselves for it on an unconscious level. We hate ourselves for getting in this situation in the first place. How did we get here? How did we abandon ourselves when we were children? Because when we were small and young, we didn't have this tendency to always have be caught up in mind activity and to identify with ego personality. So we see that we want something. We want peace. We don't know how to get it. We think we can get it by accomplishing a certain task. We think we can get it by joining some type of group that's looking to improve society. We think we can get it if we evolve in evolution and science and mathematics and logic and trophies and awards. Is one thing after another. That's where we consciously believe that our value is dependent on something. It doesn't matter what the something is, no matter how good that something is, it's not the truth that sets us free because we're attached to it. It's kind of a ironic thing, but the point is, we have to make peace with our fixations and our attachments, and we have to see them for what they are and see how much suffering they cause. This is a work of a lifetime. It never really ends, to be honest with you. And what I said earlier about being abandoned, like, to let go of the usual identity of who we think we are is like I said, it's going to sweep the rug out from under our feet. There's going to be an awkwardness. There's going to be a feeling of, I don't know what to do. I don't know where to go. I don't know how to do anything. I don't know what to know. There's going to be no direction. There's going to be no, it's like a blackout, an emptiness. And this is a very, very sensitive area. People don't want to deal with this. And a lot of times, the anger that people have towards God when they feel abandoned is because they don't want to experience this emptiness. They have to fight it very viciously. And we can notice how, when we get intense, the intensity of our fighting and our resistance to experiencing the emptiness and the nothingness is equivalent to this ego identity and its need to avoid the process of spiritual awakening. We can notice this in ourselves. And most people don't want to see this, because when they do see it, they don't want the truth to be true, basically. Because when they see this, they know there's something there. They know the mind can't go there, but they keep trying furiously. That mind keeps churning and keeps going with what it's always known. It doesn't know any better, doesn't know what else to do, so it keeps thinking, and there's more activity. But we need to make peace. We need to make peace with this. Allow it to happen and just keep watching it and allow that activity to happen. It has to burn out on its own in a way. We have to exhaust ourselves, exhaust our capacities, exhaust our resources, exhaust the fuel that we have, the motivation that we have inside us to avoid this emptiness. We have to keep doing that and keep doing that. And this is a painful thing to go through. Most people, they hate it. They don't want anything to do with it. They want to avoid it. And that's only going to make things worse. We have to allow ourselves to hate it, allow ourselves to want to avoid it, allow the resistance, and not reject any of it. Because on an unconscious level, if we reject it, it's going to make things worse, really. It's very counterintuitive, and we have to make peace with the fact that it's counterintuitive. It's almost totally upside down and backwards from the way we usually think. Losing the support and feeling that abandonment, like what we experienced when we were children, we lost this sense of magic, of delight, of an innocence, of a youthfulness, of vibrant joy and a festivity. That's what was filled in our hearts when we were children. That's how our world was. And we lost that. So this is going to kind of challenge, it's going to bring back memories of feeling abandoned and losing our way, losing our grounding, losing our source, losing connection. That's what this process does of making peace. And there's going to be nothingness, there's going to be emptiness for a long time. We have to accept this nothingness. We have to accept the emptiness and continue to accept it and keep going, because our motivation needs to become pure. We need to see that our motivation can't be, oh, we want to avoid the emptiness. That can't be it. If it's that, then we're trying to get something out of the process, and that's not how it works. The process gets something out of us. We have to put in, we have to sacrifice. That's the path. That's the way. It's not about trying to get something. That attitude, that mentality of trying to reach and grab and trying to do something, that's not it. That's the opposite. That's going to make things worse. It's going to make the identity stronger. It's going to, and if that happens, we have to say, okay, that's what's happening, because that's what's going to happen at the beginning when we first become aware of it. The ego is going to go crazy. It's going to try its hardest. It's going to, and we don't have any control over this, okay? Again, we're going to lose control. We're going to abandon the need to control. We need to make peace with all of this. This is not easy. Most people don't want to do it. People want to avoid it. They don't want this to be the way that it has to be. They'll rationalize away the truth. They'll try to find ways to say, I'll do anything but that, anything but the process of spiritual awakening. And that's how the ego operates. It starts to think, it starts to act, it starts to do. And that's not being. The purity of being is stillness, quiet. That's the peace that we have inside ourselves. That's the tranquility and the serenity that we long for on a deep level. And the value and the richness that comes from that, that's what we long for. But the ego goes about it in the wrong way. It wants that value. It wants to be able to feel peace and relaxed. It wants to feel the way it did when it was a child, that joyful exuberance. But it goes about it in the wrong way. It doesn't know any better. It just does what it thinks is best. We have to make peace with that. We have to see that we're only going to do our best. That's the only way things can happen. That's the way it unfolds, when we put in our efforts. And then in the end, we're going to realize that we have to abandon our efforts. We have to give up and sacrifice everything we're trying to do and just be still and calm and peaceful, restful and relaxed. And that's the beauty of spiritual awakening. It's not a matter, we don't have to lift a finger, basically, but it's very difficult to get to that place to realize that, because there's a lot of barriers and blocks that we need to see, and that's part of the process. A spiritual awakening on the path to the soul. John Dominique, the soul proponent.